I do have a, would you like to? I do have a card from Mike Mohill. 3 minutes, please.
Good evening, Mayor, Najarian, and council members. My name is Mike Mohill. Our finance director, Bob Elliott, mentioned CALPERS. One thing he didn't tell us, that they're only reporting that 74% they're funded. 74% of their obligation is funded. That means where are they going to get the money? They're talking about, oh, we're going to have better investments. I've been hearing that for the last 15, 20 years. They go sour most of the time. And what they do is they count on the struggling families of Glendale, the people who are on Social Security, the people who are on disability, the people who are collecting unemployment to pay more money in fees and taxes. Now you say, not a big deal. But you know what? If you're unemployed and you get your GWP bill and that money gets transferred from the GWP to the pockets of our union workforce, that's the problem. We're paying police and firemen 90% of their last year's salary as their pension for life, and they retired age 50 or 55. And they get a second job called double dipping. CalPERS is out of control. We need to leave this bankrupt, corrupt organization. They've had some of their people put in jail for conflicts of interest. Don't you all remember reading about that too? They talk about, oh, we're going to reduce the investment goal to 6.5. So what? They're still 74% unfunded. Where are they going to get that money? From you and me. And I'm tired. My wife tells me I have to use less water, take less showers, turn off electricity. We're on Social Security, like a lot of people. We're not a government employee. CalPERS needs to be terminated and put all our future employees on Social Security and a 401k plan. We need to pay this corrupt organization $1.4 billion and get rid of them. We have two options, either sell our assets or float a bond. The bond is probably the better way to go. Otherwise, the way it's going right now, ladies and gentlemen, we and our children and grandchildren will continue paying these CalPERS employees. We cannot afford them. Thank you.
Mr. Mohill. Any questions from council? Let me just, Ms. Devine?
No, I was just going to ask Mr. Ochoa, how much, again, would it cost us to get out of CalPERS?
As actually is indicated by Mr. Mohill, well more than $1 billion on a bond that you would have to somehow levy on the very taxpayers that he is asking that you somehow not levy any more burden upon, all the while you pursue a pre-funded 401k style program. So at the end of the day, the double dip would actually occur with the city in terms of having to fund a burden that you really couldn't fund. Plus, in order to stay competitive, be able to do a 401k matching program like the all-knowing, omniscient private sector. The problem with that, however, is that at the end of the day, we are a business, but we are the business of government. We have to pick one or the other. And at this point, you couldn't even, under the law, we believe, move in a direction that Mr. Mohill is advocating. As you saw in the Stockton case, while the judge said, well, you might be able to break the contract, that very same bankruptcy judge, with all of the rationale to move in that direction, opted not to, for lots of very good legal reasons. At the end of the day, I think what you have to stand back, and one of the things Mr. Mohill said that was somewhat interesting, is that the investment portfolio of PERS is so very bankrupt as it was 15 and 20 years ago. 15 and 20 years ago, your PERS bill was 0%. You were superfunded, as PERS was superfunded, because they rode on the tide of the markets. Now, shame on PERS, shame on every public agency for not continuing to just maintain a conservative standpoint, a conservative approach to the value of those investments. But if PERS is to blame, then the entire financial infrastructure of this entire nation, if not the world, is to blame. Where everything came crushing down was in a recession in 2008, 2009 that saw investment houses, the banks that were too big to fail, the insurance companies that were too big to fail, none of whom, last I checked, are part of PERS. Yet they too can make those kinds of mistakes. And so to the extent that you remain in PERS because that is the most affordable, most conservative, most reasonable thing to do, makes the most amount of sense to you as policymakers, I would venture a guess. The second part, because he says this repeatedly, is that somehow you are going to raise taxes on your residents. Under Prop 13 in the state of California, you, the five of you, cannot raise taxes. You have not raised taxes. Only the public, the voting public, can raise those taxes. In terms of fees, Prop 218, Prop 26, we have so regulated what is a fee, what is a tax, what is a user charge, what is an assessment district, that the silver lining of all of this ballot box governance is that we know very clearly what is and what is not a tax. And you have not increased those taxes. You absolutely have not. So you can't have it both ways. So, you know, and you'll hear this in a bit coming forward to say, well, let's blow a hole in the side of this organization to the tune of 15% of the revenue stream vis-a-vis the utility user tax, if only to prove an ideological point and not really give much consideration to the ultimate impact of the folks that live here, that depend on those services, is the height of your responsibility. If you were given the rules in terms of this is a tax, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, and the city council and previous city councils have acted on that reality, well then so be it. And I think what you've seen in this budget report, and you've seen in all of our budget reports over the last several years, is an absolute commitment to live within our resources. As Mr. Elliott indicated, as the mayor is you know, quite fond of saying, not through pride, but only through solemn recognition, we have dropped the size of this organization by 23, 24% on an ongoing basis, yet still maintain a high level of service. If you go back to our citizen satisfaction survey, which we'll be renewing this February and redoing on the 4-year basis, our residents are 80 and 90% either satisfied or very satisfied with the level of service that we're providing. That says something about the expectation that you have, that you put upon your executive team, and certainly the pride of our employees. And so I understand folks wanting to make soapbox speeches, and I suppose I am too, but I'm sorry, to the extent that, you know, we define democracy as asking the same question again and again until we get the answer we like, I think that is more than just a bit disingenuous.
First speaker is Mike Mohill.
Good evening, council members. My name is Mike Mohill. Mistrust, misplaced trust. In 1999, one of the most irresponsible political acts occurred when the California Public Employees Retirement System, CALPERS, convinced our state legislatures that generous salary and pension increases for state union workers could be financed from investment earnings and have no effect on the taxpayers' wallets. CalPERS actuaries were manipulated and full of holes, but the union-dominated board adopted the most optimistic scenario, and it was sold to the state legislature and the governor. Excuse me. Cities that belonged to CalPERS after 30 years of service saw their fire and police personnel receive 90% of their last year's salary at age 50 as their pension for life. Management, 75%, and general employees, 60%. CalPERS also convinced our politicians to have the taxpayers guarantee 7.75% return on their investments. Just a few years ago, CalPERS reduced the return 0.25%. All the rosy predictions came to a screeching end with the Great Recession. Council, like always, did Band-Aid fixes by raising fees and creating new fees on the taxpayers to pay for the failed investments of CALPERS. The 90%, 75%, 60% pension structure was never adjusted back to pre-1999. About 16 years ago, 30% of the general fund paid for the salary and pension benefits of Glendale Police and Fire Departments. Today, 80% is required. Because of failed investments, CalPERS today is planning to put a greater burden on struggling families with increases in fees and taxes to pay even more of the generous CalPERS union employees' salary and pension benefits. P.S. In an article dated November 1, 2015, in the LA Daily News, while the median private employer's contribution 3% of pay toward their employees' retirement accounts, Glendale taxpayers will spend a whopping 30 cents per dollar to pay CalPERS this year. PPS, Los Angeles Times article dated October 23, 2015. CalPERS pension plan was only 74% funded at the end of June 2015. In July, the overall fund reported returns of just 2.4% for its fiscal year, which ended June 30, far below its projected 7.5% investment target, and places every Glendale citizen on the hook for their failed investments. For months, our city council was advised that the bankrupt cities of San Bernardino, Santa Ana, and others who belonged to CalPERS had one common thread. These welfare cities possess millions of dollars of unfunded Cadillac Post employees' medical insurance. In Glendale, the unfunded debt obligation grew from $103 million in 2009 to about $250 million fiscal year 2015, and still growing. Because of public pressure and a new government standard edict, our current council react to the unfunded medical insurance debt, and over the strong objections of our union workforce, did council unanimously vote to cancel this out-of-control employee benefit. Ladies and gentlemen, please contact our council members and inform them that you are tired of going without in order that our CalPERS union workforce can live in a grand style denied to you. Council members who have received endorsements and campaign contribution from our government union sit on council and protect the interests of our firefighters, police officers, city management, and general employees. Time for Glendale citizens to bite the bullet and pay CalPERS $1.4 billion of blood money and be rid of this irresponsible and corrupt pension benefit system. It will not be easy, folks. Otherwise, we and our children will continue to be indebted to CalPERS for years to come. God save the Queen. In this case, God save Glendale citizens. Thank you. My name is Mike Mohill.